Hello, hello, welcome or welcome back. I'm not gonna lie, I have been doing a bit of retail therapy via used books and have accumulated a good stack of recent purchases, so I thought I should potentially film what will likely be a multi-part book haul since we have well over probably about 40 books that I have purchased in the past month. All of them used, so thankfully it has not been a huge financial strain on my pocket, but it does pose the question of where I will put all of these new books on my very full shelves. So today I wanted to make a video talking to you about the fiction books that I recently have purchased. A fair number of the books in my overall purchasing spree have been nonfiction, so that will be an upcoming book haul for you all. But today I want to talk about the fiction books because one, I'm excited about them, and two, I felt like they deserved their own sort of dedicated haul, if you will. So without further ado, let's get started with the book that actually probably prompted this shopping spree, shall we say. I had been on somewhat of a low buy year, and clearly that has gone out the window, but I was in a used bookstore a couple weeks ago and saw this book. This is The Crack Up by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is the last work of his that he worked on in his life and was published posthumously, I believe, but it is the last novel that he was working on, as well as a number of journal entries and letters to people during this time period, and I have wanted to read it for many years and managed to find this very cool sort of older edition that I really think is quite beautiful, and well, let's just say it was a gateway drug to the rest of the stack that I have in front of me. So with that, we also have, I picked this up in the same used bookstore. This is The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. I have Middlemarch on my shelf and I'm excited to read that as well, but I have been learning bits and pieces here and there about George Eliot's life in the past year or so, and just realizing that she led such a very interesting and for her time unconventional life as a female author, and so wanting to read more of her work. This book in particular, based on the description, it sounds like it might have little, maybe tidbits of herself based on what I know about her life depicted in it, so for that reason I picked it up. I was curious, and I enjoyed this edition. I don't know, Elliot tends to have published books that are tomes, shall we say, but I appreciate that even though this is a longer book, it fits nicely in the hand. It is a light paperback, and I'm excited to get to this whenever I do. I will say there are a fair number of classics in this book haul. So next up we have 1984 by George Orwell. This is a book that I was assigned in high school English class, and when I read it at the time, I don't think I enjoyed it. One, for the reason that I think bits of it definitely went over my head at the time. I have sort of evolved a deeper and greater interest in politics and authoritarianism and all of that as I have gotten older, but at the time I think that went over my head, but also I don't think I enjoyed the teacher that I had at the time, which I feel like is a reoccurring reason that some people don't enjoy certain books when they read them for the first time in English class. But nonetheless, I wanted to pick up a copy of this book and revisit it in my current 30-year-old mindset in the world of 2025 in America. Next up I have two books by Virginia Woolf. First I got online in practically new condition, and it is this utterly stunning copy of Orlando by her. This is definitely held up as very much a queer classic, if you will, and so for that reason, and also just I have really enjoyed Virginia Woolf's writing when I've read it in the past. Really looking forward to this, and I simply cannot get over this cover. It is really, really stunning. Likewise, I also have, this is A Room of One's Own and Three Guineas by Woolf. I think in one of my previous book hauls I picked up a copy of A Room of One's Own, and I still have that on my shelf. However, I sort of blind bought it used online, and the copy itself is from the 50s and kind of falling apart, and so I feel bad about potentially reading it and annotating it like I know I likely will, so I will still keep it on my shelf as sort of a cool historical book, but I wanted sort of a copy that I could get my teeth into, as well as I've also wanted to read Three Guineas by Woolf as well, so that is that. I've definitely been wanting to read Joan Didion's work for quite a while. I have her famous essay collection Slouching Towards Bethlehem on my upcoming TBR shelf, but I saw that this is one of the novels that she had published in her time, and I don't know much about it other than that it's by Joan Dideon, and I was sort of pulled in by the title, A Book of Common Prayer. It intrigued me, and so this jumped into my cart. A couple months ago, I finished reading Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet and was utterly enchanted by it, so I've picked up a few books by him. The novel of his that I picked up is The Notebooks of Malte, oh goodness, Laurids Briggs. I don't know if this is the only novel he ever published, but it is one of the few novels published by him, I believe, and it is the story of a down-and-out young writer and poet in Paris, which is apparently semi-autobiographical, and that just sounds delightful to me, and I really loved getting to read Rilke's letters about poetry and being an artist and being a creative, so I look forward to seeing what he does in this novel. Next up, we have Paradise of the Blind by, I'm going to apologize up front about my pronunciation, Duong Huong. This is a Vietnamese novel. I had wanted to get this out from my library several times, but when I went to place a hold on it, they had gotten rid of it from their catalog. So, sort of faced with the decision, well, I need to buy it apparently. The description says, Paradise of the Blind tells the story of three women fighting to maintain their dignity under a government that discards old values and tears families apart. Long banned in its own country, this moving novel captures the hunger, pride, and endurance of ordinary people in a land of intoxicating beauty, as it provides a rare, insightful look into a changing Vietnam. I suppose in a similar vein to the book by Rilke that I picked up, I also picked up James Joyce's A Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. I've been meaning to experience Joyce on the page, but was sort of intimidated by, say, his books Dubliners or Ulysses, so this, for whatever reason, maybe it is just the title, it felt like a bit more of an approachable entry point to him. I have been really interested in engaging and reading more of the early 20th century modernist writers, of which Joyce is definitely a famous name amongst them. This is a short story collection by Mark Slouka, who has quickly become one of my favorite authors. I read him for the first time last year. His short story collection, Lake Stories, was utterly magical. So I've sort of made it a point to pick up whatever book of his I can whenever I see it. This is another short story collection by him, and the one fiction book that is still on its way to me, has not arrived, is his novel Brewster. But this is another short story collection. I feel like, based on the description, there's a little bit more potential surrealism or magical realism in these stories, but time will tell when I read this. Next we have Good Morning Midnight by Jean Rees. I also have Wide Sargasso Sea on my shelf that I also intend to get to, hopefully this summer. But this is another of her novels, a short little paperback, and it is apparently the last of 4 novels that she wrote in the interwar years in Paris. And based on the description, it sounds like it is about a young woman returning to Paris, seeking a fresh start, but finding herself sort of adrift in her own social circles and in her own self and in her own life. Next up, I have The Gin Closet by Leslie Jamieson. This is, I hadn't realized when I picked this up, but the author is also a well-known essay writer who I have had my eye on several of her collections, so I just happened to pick up her novel. It sounds like it potentially is a dual narrative where you have a woman who has sort of a troubled history with her family, who has moved out to the Southwest or the Nevada desert and has fallen into alcoholism. But her younger niece comes to live with her, and it sounds like they sort of have a relationship that sort of evolves both of the characters. So interested to see what a well-regarded creative nonfiction writer does with fiction. And then finally we have Arturo's Island by Elsa Morante, who is an Italian author that I have really been wanting to read. A number of her books have been out of print for a year or so, and I believe they are scheduled to start being reprinted, which is great. But I believe she was an Italian author that wrote in the early part of the 20th century and is very well regarded, is gaining some traction again with English-speaking audiences. So that is great for me because I've been wanting to read her work for quite a while, and this is a really cool cover, I will say. So Arturo's Island is set in Naples and is apparently a novel that basks in iridescence and delicate enchantment. It tells a fable-like story of a young man's coming of age, vividly imagined as a drama of youthful passions and thwarted desires. So it was originally published in 1957 and was awarded Italy's most prestigious literary prize. Yeah, it sounds like it was recently retranslated by Anna Goldstein for the newer release in English-speaking countries. So that, my friends, is the pile of fiction books that I have acquired recently. Stay tuned for the probably two-part nonfiction haul that I will be doing in the coming weeks. If you're not subscribed and would like to see that, enjoyed what you've seen in this video, feel free to subscribe, leave a comment. Have you read any of these books? If so, what were your thoughts? But for now, I will sign off, and I hope you're doing well, and take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.